What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Genesis Open. Really great tournament here at Riviera. Lots of course history. Tiger is in the field again, pretty star-studded. One of the questions I already got asked was, am I going to be playing Dustin Johnson? Like, what do you mean? He's the #1 player in the world. He's 5-1 to win. We'll talk more about that, but yeah, real star-studded field. It's a par 71. I think it's 7,300 yards out here on the California coast with the POA greens. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right into the cheat sheet. If you are new to this, what's taking you so long? This is my cheat sheet that I build. All these tools are available on dfsondemand.com. Let's talk about this. Dustin Johnson, 11,900, the most expensive player on the board. If you liked his course history at Pebble Beach last week, you really love it here. Look at the last 4 years at Riviera. He's your defending champion, a 4th place and 2 runner-ups. We can go back and look at his even more course history, right? And I can sort this by year. You know, 5 top 4 finishes in the last 6 years and 6 top 4 finishes in the last 8 years. He actually missed the cut the other 2 years, which is pretty unbelievable. But I think the question around whether I'm going to play him or not stemmed off the fact that he essentially blew Pebble Beach last week, right? When you're in the final group with Ted Potter Jr. and you're Dustin Johnson, you should be winning that event. Am I concerned? No. What we've seen from Dustin Johnson is he has a very, very short memory. I forget what the events were, but remember he blew a 6-shot lead. Was it the WGC? I think it was a WGC event. He blew a 6-shot lead on Sunday or something. He comes back the next time he tees it up and runs away with it again. This guy has no scar tissue. He's unbelievable. I'm not too concerned about it. He's 5-1 to win, so Vegas is obviously endorsing him. All right. What else are... Oh, actually, real quick. I actually think 11,900 for 5-1. I could not find anyone else in the system who had that good of odds and a price not over 12 grand. So I actually think, all things considered, DJ might be underpriced here, which is pretty unbelievable. So he's going to be leading the pack of my exposure, I believe. All right. Moving right along here, what are we going to do with the rest of these guys? Jordan Spieth has been unable to find the putter this year. I imagine it's going to click at some point, but it's going to be hard to roster him. I just love DJ so much. I'm gonna go up and grab him basically every single time. Phil Mickelson, we talked about the last couple of weeks. We have to mention him here again very quickly. He is a killer on the West Coast, and he's coming off of 2 top 5 finishes. Let's give him a quick peek here at Riviera, and you can see he hasn't played this every year. So it used to be called the Northern Trust Open. Hasn't played it every year, but you can see had a lot of success here in the late, what do we call that? The late 2000s, because not the 2010s. But anyway, 2008, 2009, back-to-back winner, a 2nd place in 2012, rounding into form. This is probably the best Phil has played. Actually, let's just look it up. Actually, sorry, spoiler alert, I was looking for Ches Reavie earlier. We'll talk about him in a second. Here's Phil Mickelson. Going back, remember, this goes back 10 years now, this history here. To find 2 other top 5s, close here with a 6th and a 3rd, but that was at the end of last year in small fields. Just kind of scrolling through this, I don't know the last time he put up 2 top 5s in a row. I mean, I'm literally looking at this for the first time with you. I guess it was right here, but that was he won the Euro event, and then he won the British Open the next week in 2013. So I guess that's fine. And then the FedEx and then the US Open. So going back to essentially 2013 was the last time he put two top 5 finishes back-to-back. So I don't think it's that outrageous to say this is the best he's played in the last 5 years, at least for a 2-week span. And then to get him on a course that he has really excellent history at, yeah, sign me up for that. Also, just as a quick caveat, I think Tommy Fleetwood is going to be really highly owned. I've seen him for basically every other article that I've read. Everyone else is talking about Tommy Fleetwood, and I don't disagree. But I'm wondering how many how many players are going to start their lineups with DJ and Fleetwood. If you went DJ Phil, that would probably be a little contrarian or a little bit, or like Spieth and Phil would probably be a lot more. I'll be interested to see how that Fleetwood Mickelson price range, how those two shake out in terms of ownership. Okay. Real quick, I'll just answer this question before somebody asks me, why don't we have a lot of stats on some of these other guys here? There's something going, first of all, for these here, they don't have a big enough sample size, so Tiger hasn't played enough events. Also, there was an issue with my feed on why Tiger wasn't coming over here. So I'll try to get that adjusted before this video goes live, but we should be just still working out the kinks early in the year. I'm aware of it. I'll take care of it. Who else do we like here? So as we continue to roll through, like who's playing really well? How about Ches Reavie at 8,000? Bill Haas is 8,100. He's more expensive, and he's 60 to 1 to win. Ches is only 30 to 1 to win this thing, and he's $8,000. He's coming off 2 second-place finishes in a row. It's remarkable. We talk about Ches all the time. Go back and watch like the last 12 months of these videos. We talk about Ches Reavie all the time, and he just continues to impress, right? I don't know if there's another second-place finish in his repertoire this week. He has a 7th place here 2 years ago, but he's mispriced. When we go through and we do the odds, like he's very, very mispriced. Okay, he's 30 to 1 to win. The reason I was looking up his game logs is because I read a stat and I wanted to look into it. Eric Patterson, who writes the weekly article on DFS on Demand, you can go read it right now. It's a great article. He mentioned that Ches has made something like 19 straight cuts, and I was like, wow, I knew it was a lot. I think it's the longest active streak on tour or something like that. And I had to come back and look at it. So here it is. He hasn't missed a cut since the AT&T Byron Nelson in May of last year. And here's the finishes. There's a ton of top 25s in there. There's a ton of top 15s in there. Like the dude's just been in contention every single week, and he's priced at $8,000. So I guess we have to continue to talk about him. Bubba Watson, listen to me say this once because I maybe will never say it again. Bubba's interesting this week. Like, I'm not a big Bubba fan. He's fallen off the face of the earth, but he's a 2-time champion here, and he's played better recently. Now, I did read an article. You can't make this stuff up. I read an article that said he was willing to withdraw if this tournament interferes with his playing in the celebrity basketball game at the NBA All-Star game. I don't know what the truth to that article is, but again, like you can't make this stuff up. So if you want to roster Bubba, I can't blame you. If you want to fade him, I can't blame you. But I have to do my part to point him out here. Kevin Chappell, another guy who is, according to Vegas, underpriced. So you've got a 6th place finish at the Career Builder, an 8th place at Pebble Beach. He's 40 to 1 to win, and he's only $7,700. That is a misprice there. Let's see if we can find a little bit more value. Here's Ollie. $7,600 is nuts for Ollie Snyder-Jans, who, again, 2 top 7 finishes in 3 of the last tournaments he's teed it up. He had an 8th place finish last year. Again, another guy we talk about a lot, but continues to post good scores. Let's see who else pops off. I'm kind of looking at a lot of this for the first time with you guys. We'll wrap up with the odds like we always do, but see if anybody else pops off here. I know there are going to be a couple of values, and I'll just point it out real quick. Where is he? Wow. I'm recording this late. Where the heck is KJ Choi? Oh, $7,000. All right. Let's talk about KJ Choi, and then we'll go over to the course history here. So KJ Choi, $7,000. He's 200 to 1 to win. Let's look at KJ Choi's course history. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4 top 7 finishes, a handful more top 25s. Whatever is going on at Riviera, KJ Choi loves it. And he's coming off a 25th place at Pebble Beach last week. You can probably do much worse for $7,000. Looking at other course history here, guys who at least have a large enough sample size for us to matter. Jimmy Walker, what did he do last week? Because he actually was mispriced here as well. So here's Jimmy Walker at $7,200 off his 8th place finish last week. So $7,200 should put him, yeah, right here, kind of like 100 to 1, or even Furyk like 150 to 1, Lucas Glover's 150 to 1, Retief Goosen 250. Jimmy Walker's the best one in that price range, 80 to 1. So if you're looking for the Vegas mismatch, it's Jimmy Walker in that range. Anyone else here that might pop off that we haven't talked about recently? Probably not. Let's go look at the tour stats here real quick. And again, if you're new to this, you shouldn't be. But what I do is I run a regression model for all the PGA Tour stats and then compare it to the DraftKings scoring from the last 8 years, and we see what fits. Now, Riviera, great course history because they've played Riviera every year for this tournament. There's no course rotations or anything like that, so we're getting actually a real true look of some pretty good history here. And the stats that popped off, they are in this order. So the most heavily correlated stat is strokes gained total. Makes sense. Then it's scoring average, again, kind of makes sense. That SFDA, our favorite stat that keeps popping up every single week. Love it. The third most correlator. And then you have strokes gained off the tee, which is the first time this year. I read a little bit of analysis on the course. Being in the rough is pretty penal. You need to also place your shots in the right side or the correct sides of the fairway. So like strokes gained off the tee doesn't always pop off on this correlation, and it makes sense that it does this week, which I love when it does that. And then we round out with putts over 10 feet. So let's run through these real quick and see who the best at each of these are and see if we can find some value. No surprise. Dustin Johnson right at the top of the, top 2 here. Brandon Grace actually number 1. Paul Casey, of course, and then here's a couple of values, right? So Ches Reavie and then Adam Scott. How about that? Adam Scott, $7,400. We could go back and look at the last time he was that price, but it's been a while. Phil is there, Ollie is there, and Jonathan Vegas is there. Jonathan Vegas might be a guy I bet this week. We've seen him feast or famine, capable of winning a golf tournament. I saw him at like 100 to 1 or 150 to 1. I forget what the number was, but Jonathan Vegas might be a guy that I actually go out and just bet this week. But you can see there's a couple of values here. Brandon Harkins is a guy that keeps popping up on like PGA Twitter. He seems to be have quite the following, and he's a very good strokes gained player approach as well. I think he led the field in strokes gained approach last week, so no surprise to see him there. When we go to scoring average, a few value plays here. Again, it's Reavie, it's Snyderjans, it's Tony Finau. Very interesting. Will McGirt, I'm not sure he has a ton of rounds. Same with JJ Spawn. I might have to go back and see how many rounds those two guys have played. And then you get Phil again. That's pretty good. SFDA, I knew it. I knew DJ was just going to be far and away the best in the field here. We saw Ricky Fowler. It was a couple weeks ago. He was far and away the leader. I mean, look at this. He's just lapping the field. Brendan Steele pops up. So a lot of the same names, right? Finau, Steele, Casey, Reavie. These are all guys that are going to be making a lot of my lineups. Patrick Cantlay, 7,600. That's a pretty good deal. All right, strokes gained off the tee. I think this is probably the most important one to this event. I know that the other ones correlate higher, but they correlate with success on basically every course. Strokes gained total, scoring average, like they're going to correlate on every course. Strokes gained off the tee is the one that really pops off. And or I guess I should say 3 names here are really interesting. Kevin Chappell, who we already saw was underpriced, is 3rd in the field in strokes gained off the tee. He's going to be a staple in a lot of my lineups. Adam Scott, incredibly underpriced at $7,400. Actually, you know what? Let's see what Adam Scott's done. Let's just go do this. Bear with me for another minute. These videos are already long enough. If you're watching this long, you're going to stay for another minute and see what Adam Scott's been up to recently. Not pretty, right? So 2 straight missed cuts worldwide, 50th, hasn't had a top 25 since October. It was only 5 tournaments ago for him. Pretty uninspiring, which is why this price is what it is. But if, everyone says he's got one of the, most beautiful golf swings in the world, right? If anything can click for someone, maybe it's Adam Scott. Maybe we give him a pass because he's only played once worldwide since December. Maybe we say, let's see what you can do this week, Adam Scott. I won't be too big of an investor, but I will certainly have some shares just because, his current form or his current PGA stats would indicate he's a pretty good fit for this course. And then JB Holmes. Listen, I guess I'll go down with the ship on JB. He's $7,600. He's missed the last 2 cuts. It was a 4th place finish before that. He's got an 11th place and a 22nd in the past. He just pops up on these tour stats a lot, and you're going to get him at 3% ownership, or I don't know, maybe 5. I might go down with the ship here. I'm willing to lose on him multiple weeks, and then when he pops off and drops a top 5 or a top 10, and he's $7,600, I'll have a pretty significant share. I don't know. Maybe I'm hitching my wagon to the wrong horse, but there's a lot to like about JB, even with the 2 missed cuts in a row. And then putts over 10 feet, I think we're going to see JB again. Yeah, number 1 in the field. Phil, obviously, up here. Graham McDowell's been pretty good worldwide. And then let's see if anybody else. Jimmy Walker's kind of up here. Right? The guys whose names are repeating a lot are the ones that we're going to be heavily invested in. And then let's wrap this up with, we'll just do the Vegas odds like we always do. Just one last time. We already talked about a couple of them, but let's see what we can find here. The top 6 or 7 guys are all pretty good, pretty priced compared to their peers pretty well. However, I still believe DJ at 5-1 is underpriced. That someone like that should be, I don't know, 12.5. I mean, I feel like we've even seen sometimes him bear down on 13,000. I don't know if the DK pricing, I'll have to go back and look, but the fact that he hasn't broken $12,000 yet is actually probably a value. Reevy's the big one here, right? 30-1, and there are guys, Brandon Grace 40-1 is $1,000 more expensive. Tiger Woods $800 more expensive. Basically everyone down here is more expensive and at worse odds. So Reevy is a big beneficiary there. Thomas Peters is kind of the same thing. He's a Euro guy, so he doesn't get a lot of love from the public, but Vegas is at least backing him a little bit. Adam Scott, same odds as Schwartzel and Bill Haas, but he's the cheapest one of that group. Those are decent, within a couple $100 of each other. Harkins at 6,800. Again, he's kind of this young player who is catching the eye of a lot of PGA Twitter. Really solid. I mean, you can see the swing year he's had. He's piling up the top 25s. He's averaging 69 DraftKings points. I've never played here before in a competitive round, but $6,800 Vegas has him at 100-1. That's pretty good. So if you're looking for someone down there, and that's probably the extent of it. Yeah, that's probably it. So there you go. That's the preview for the Genesis Open. Looking forward to hear who you guys are playing. Tweet me. It's at DFS on demand, or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.